All right, welcome back everybody to conversation number 92. We are here to talk about being chronically online and what the TikTok ban can teach us about digital experimentation with Georgiana. As always, though, we want to start by thanking our sponsors. First up, of course, we want to thank Conductrix. They've been with us from the very beginning. Thank you, Matt, Nate, Ezekiel, Ashley, and the entire team at Conductrix so much for supporting the TLC. We love you. Thank you so much. We also want to thank our TLC newsletter sponsors, Conductrix again, Growth Book, AB Smartly, and SiteSpect. Thank you all so much for providing your thought leadership to the community. We also want to thank Convert. They do the conversations. If you're not a part of those conversations, you have an opportunity to engage, learn more about each other, and share something about yourself. There's a conversations channel in the TLC Slack. Each month, we prompt with different questions. You can engage on those questions and ask, answer, learn a little bit about each other, and then Marcella and I go through those questions once a month, and we decide which ones we found the most intriguing and interesting, and then you get gift cards, which is really cool, and we share the stuff that we found interesting both in the newsletter and on LinkedIn. Again, it's all in the goal of learning more about each other and engaging with the community. So it's a really great initiative. Please participate, and especially women's voices. We want more women's voices. Please, women, engage. We have amazing voices and we'd love more women to engage. So let's please do that. And thank you, Convert, for doing that. And last but not least, thank you, Blazing Growth, for being a part of making the TLC community what we are. Next up, some announcements. Ruben and I, we have 2 spots left now in our course, Building Award-Winning Experimentation Cultures. It starts March 31st. That's cohort-based learning. It's an 8-week course. There are still 2 scholarships left. They're 50% scholarships. If you're interested, it's bit.ly/abculture. If you have any questions about the course, you can ask me, you can ask Ruben, or you can ask, we have some testimonials from the people who took the course last time. Just let me know and I'll send them to you. And Michael Agard, April 4th, which is our next class, our next conversation, Michael is going to be doing a talk about presentation skills and getting rid of your presentation fears. So come to that talk and get a feel for what it would be like to be a student in Michael's class. Georgiana, you've had Michael as a speaker coach.
He's amazing. He is so helpful, and he's amazing. I really recommend this to everyone.
Yeah, right?
Fantastic.
I mean, he is. And you've even had him kind of as a cohort coach because he did coaching with the other
summit
mentees, right?
Yeah, it was incredible having his mentoring. He's an amazing person to help you out. Amazing.
He really, really is. And this is an amazing opportunity. And normally these classes could be really expensive, but because of the TLC, they're less expensive, and we have 50% scholarships available. So I highly, highly recommend, number one, come see what it's about with a free workshop, a presentation, and then apply for the course and the workshop, the scholarship. It's bit.ly Coach Agard. And if you have any questions, reach out to Michael. All right. So what can we say about Georgiana? If you spent any time in the experimentation space, you probably come across Georgiana. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. She's a senior strategy consultant at CreativeCX. She's not just leading bold strategies across industry. She's also a rising star in experimentation. She's made it more approachable, accessible, and actionable for teams at every level. Her path into experimentation is marked by both rigor and heart, from her social sciences and mathematics background to her e-commerce analytics work, optimizing hotel bookings during the pandemic, a true trial by fire. She's always sought ways to connect data with real-world impact, whether she's breaking down a complex theory or mentoring someone just getting started. She brings clarity, empathy, and a healthy dose of curiosity to everything she does. Outside of work, her love for puzzles and her play shines through. She's an escape room aficionado and a board game enthusiast and a quiz whiz. In short, she's clever, kind, and absolutely killing it. And we're so lucky to have her in our community. Love you, Georgie. Go
Oh,
ahead.
that's such a lovely introduction. Thank you. That's probably the nicest introduction I've ever had. Thank you, Kelly.
But of course, take
And
it
I
away.
think that all ties in really nicely actually to my subject for today, which is what we can learn from the TikTok ban. So I am always looking for ways to connect the real world to the theoretical world of experimentation. So that's a really nice segue in. Um, I mean, my first slide is who am I, but really, why is it that I'm talking about this today? So yes, as Kelly said, I am a senior strategy consultant at a specialist experimentation consultancy. So my day-to-day job is helping my clients with their experimentation programs. Something we've really focused on last year and this year is this idea of problem first prioritization. So really understanding the problem that you're trying to fix, or not even fix, just address before going into solutions, which is going to tie into some of the things I talk about today. I am also chronically online. I think my daily hours on my phone is into double digits. I'm online far too much. So this is something I know quite a lot about. And then for TikTok particularly, my fiance is actually a content creator or influencer, although he really hates that term. He's got over 1 million followers on TikTok. So when this ban was coming into play, it's something I was following very closely. It has affected us. Even being in the UK, the US ban has affected us. And I thought it was really interesting to talk about that from my perspective, and perspective of somebody who's being impacted, but also has the knowledge from the experimentation point of view and just general awareness of brands and why they may be doing what they're doing. So going to talk about essentially three key events that happened, and then within this, the different learnings. So first of all, the act that kicked it all off, the 2024 PAFACA Act. Then I want to talk about some of the different corporate responses, how the different brands were reacting to it, and then finally, what happened when the ban actually came in itself. Because as Kelly mentioned, which I really like the term you used flip-flop, TikTok flip-flop, and that is exactly what it was. It was banned for less than 24 hours in the end, although it may be coming back. So I'm going to talk about all those things. First of all, I just wanted to cover all bases just in case you didn't know what TikTok was. It is a social media app that specializes in short form media content. So initially when it was created, I think it was around 15-second videos that then expanded up to 30 seconds to a minute. And I think now the maximum video length is 10 minutes. But in general, most users will be making around the 30 seconds to 1 minute mark. For when it comes to actually monetization, creators can monetize over 1 minute. So you have to be making slightly long videos to be able to monetize. It was initially launched under the name Douyin in China by the Chinese company ByteDance. They then purchased, I think, a Singaporean company called Musical.ly, which was primarily used for lip syncing videos. That was 2017, and that's really when we started to see this global uplift of usage once it sort of expanded outside China. In 2018 is when a lot of celebrities and brands started to move over to TikTok. And then when COVID hit, the traffic absolutely skyrocketed. So it hit 1 billion users for the first time during COVID in 2021. I think it was July 2021. It hit 1 billion users. Now there are over 2.1 billion users globally, and there's 1 billion unique monthly visits to the app. So it's just absolutely expanded like crazy. The demographic is primarily a very young demographic as well, which is why I think this is very interesting. So 1 in 4 users of the app are under 20, with 60% of users being under 35. and it actually has more Gen Z users than Instagram, which is one of the big things. Whenever we talk about TikTok, it's interesting to just note the demographic we're talking about here. We're talking about Gen Z, we're talking about millennial, potentially even Gen Alpha, although technically they shouldn't be on there because of the age restrictions, but they probably are on there. And also there are a lot of brands on there. So I mentioned the 2018s when we start to see the brands and the celebrities really get on the platform. It is now absolutely covered in brands, both organically and then also paying for advertisements and that kind of thing. TikTok actually signed a partnership with the NBA just before the 100th Super Bowl a few years ago. So that was really the first big move into America, and also the idea of partnership. Now on the app, it is fully in the e-commerce market since 2022. It launched something called TikTok Shop, which allows you to purchase products directly on the app. It also opened monetization and partnership programs for creators themselves, and this idea of gifting. So you can actually watch somebody live streaming and gift them something, which is playing into the same sort of role we see other platforms like Twitch doing as well. So it's fully in the e-commerce markets, in the live video markets, in the short form media markets. There's a lot of different markets, and a lot of brands capitalize on this by either growing their own accounts organically. So Duolingo is a great example of this, or by paying creators on the app to do certain trends and that kind of thing to really promote them. And then in the last year or so, TikTok have actually added ads into the app as well. So now as you're scrolling through videos, you occasionally see an ad. So it's very much brands are really a central part of the app now. So that's TikTok. What is the so-called TikTok ban? So the 2024 PATH-ACA Act, which stands for the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Control Applications Act, it's pretty much it's referred to as a TikTok ban, or the TikTok Act, and that is for good reason, because it is essentially what it is. The first line of the act actually reads, to protect the national security of the United States from the threat posed by foreign adversary-controlled applications such as TikTok and any success application or service developed or provided by ByteDance Ltd or an entity under the control of ByteDance Ltd. So ByteDance being the owners of TikTok. So this is really interesting. This is an act that has been brought in. It's under the guise of protecting national security for America, making sure that any American data is fully held in America and isn't being sold to these foreign adversary countries such as China. But the fact it actually name dropped TikTok and ByteDance, was the parent company of TikTok, is very interesting. And that's why it's seen as a very pointed act against TikTok themselves. This raised a lot of backlash. So a lot of, obviously it's quite a young user base, but they're very vocal. So there's a lot of backlash and the sentiment that this is really going against freedom of speech. It's very controlling. It's a form of censorship. It is essentially the government trying to take control of allowing the American people to use an app, and that is trying to come up with excuses, but ultimately that's what it is. So this was 2024, and essentially at that point it was decided that if TikTok wasn't sold by the 15th of January, it'd be banned in the US. You wouldn't be able to access it, you wouldn't be able to use it. So as well as all of this backlash, I started to notice a lot of very interesting behavior going on online. So the first of which was there was this massive shift towards Red Note, so which is a different app. So on TikTok, a lot of people were saying, hey, we're going to go over and use Red Note. Everybody come join Red Note. Red Note is a Chinese app. It is native Chinese. It is entirely in Chinese, but it's very similar user interface. It's essentially very similar to TikTok. It's almost as if TikTok combined with Pinterest, but Chinese. So there was this big surge of people moving to Red Note, and it's such a big influx. It actually became the #1 downloaded app in America, but also the UK as well. I'm not sure about other companies, but certainly in America and UK. So this is a screenshot from my phone showing that this Red Note app, again, entirely Chinese, was the #1 app in the UK at that point. Red Note were very smart about this. So they capitalized on that traffic in a way that I'm going to talk about. But it also led to a lot of companies and a lot of creators trying to encourage people to not move to the app. So they started to tell people, hey, you shouldn't use RedNote. It's even worse than TikTok when it comes to privacy. Your data would definitely be sold to China if you move to this app. You really shouldn't do it. But that is really interesting to me because to me, that is those companies not understanding why people are moving in the first place. So this is a key example of why you really need to understand the problem before you attempt to get your audience to do something else. So in RedNote's case, people weren't leaving TikTok to RedNote because they thought it was better. They weren't leaving because they thought, oh no, my privacy is going to be, all my data is going to be stolen if I stay on TikTok. That's not why they were leaving. So the fact people were trying to convince them not to do that was just falling on deaf ears, and it was just absolutely trying to get them to stop doing something, but you're not giving them a reason why. You're not addressing their concerns. Instead, you really need to think about, well, they should have thought about why are people moving in the first place? What can we do instead? Can we, if we don't want them moving to this app, what other app do we want them to move to, and provide that alternative? How do you apply this to experimentation? Well, as an experimentation, we often notice our users doing things we don't want them to do. We might notice them, instead of following the carefully laid out funnel we've planned out, we might see them going to odd pages here and there, or going back, going back a step, for example. We need to understand why they're doing that before we try and stop them. If we just try and stop them, you don't know why they're doing it, and actually they may just find another way to do what they're attempting to do. So rather than removing those roads and removing their ability to do that action, understand why they're doing it first, and then you can address that problem. So in the case of a funnel, if people aren't following down your funnel, if maybe they're getting to the second step and then going backwards, rather than removing the ability to go back, in which case your users may just decide to leave your site altogether or go all the way back to the homepage and start again, consider why they're going back. Is it that they're missing some information that maybe you can surface on that second step? Is it that they're confused about something, or something they've suddenly realized something? And think about what alternatives you can offer to them to going back. So providing information on that step, allowing them to edit things, for example. That's why it's really important to actually take the time to understand, because ultimately, if you don't, and all you do is make life harder for them, they're even less likely to want to convert and help you. So the second thing that I thought Reddit actually did really well was to capitalize on this influx of traffic. So there was, I don't have the exact stats, but there was obviously this huge exodus away from TikTok. Rednote didn't panic. They also didn't continue what they were doing. They saw this huge amount of traffic coming in, and they identified that this was a lot of English speaking traffic on their entirely Chinese app. And so they spent time and money prioritizing making parts of the app English. So they changed a lot of the interface, a lot of the wording, just as much as possible, making it English so people, all this traffic could immediately start engaging. They weren't losing out. And then they also invested in English translators, which is something I noticed very quickly. These ads going up for looking for English translators, for this Chinese to English translators, putting the money where it was important at that point, stopping what other roadmaps they had in place, which meant that very quickly all this traffic that had come over, they were able to retain it, and then they continued to build on that. So I think a couple of weeks later, they had finally got it to the point where they could also automatically translate all the comment sections as well, which led to even more engagement from those new users. I think it's really important because it again, it showed they were very switched on. It was very easy for them at that point to identify what their users needed, and then prioritize what they were working on based on the traffic volumes and how severe those needs were. I think this is hopefully very clear how we can apply that for experimentation. What we need to do to really use this is, if you do see this influx of traffic to your site for whatever reason, take the time to understand why you've got this influx and what their needs may be that may be different from your current experience, and think about how you can pivot to support them and capitalize and retain that traffic. It's also, just in general, it shows how important it is to understand your audience, so understand their needs, understand what's important to them, and thinking about addressing those concerns rather than just trying to go with your gut and think about what maybe what do I need to do, or what do I want to do for the business? If you focus on your audience, you're more likely to have better engagement and better results from it. It's also really important as well to think about the volume of traffic and also the scale of the problem. So you may see you've got this huge influx of traffic, or even if it's not an influx, if you just generally have a lot of traffic who are doing one problem or one particular action that seems to be a problem, you may feel like that's something we really need to address. But actually, we need to think about how bad the impact is. Is that one thing that we're trying to do? It's a bit annoying, but it's not actually getting in the way. Or is this one thing that they're really trying to do, really stopping everyone? If it's the former, if it's that maybe it's adding a couple of extra clicks to the journey, but ultimately it's only of the hundreds of thousands of visitors, only 1% and not, are dropping out or leaving your site, it may be worth seeing, is there a bigger problem that's stopping a higher proportion of people? So to put this in real terms for you, one of my clients has a very different traffic for Facebook compared to the rest of their channels. They noticed that Facebook traffic really hated a certain paying for a subscription. Essentially, they are a service where you can either buy one-time tickets or a subscription. They noticed Facebook really hated subscriptions. But the question was, do they prioritize that? Do they prioritize improving subscriptions for Facebook when actually their other channels may be having bigger issues? Or is it just a bit annoying for Facebook and it's not worth prioritizing? For them, they actually took the time to look at all of their channels, look at how they were all acting, and they realized that Facebook was the only channel who really didn't like the subscriptions of the way they were presented. So rather than spending the time to continually try to develop the subscription model, which would potentially alienate these other channels, they decided to just treat Facebook as very separate and remove it for them, which meant that actually Facebook traffic is suddenly getting the experience they want, and the rest of the audiences are getting the experience they want without either of them suffering. It also meant they understood how big the impact would be as well. So they knew it was worth putting the time into, rather than having a lot of people doing something that didn't matter. And this brings me really nicely on to my third point, actually, which is the importance of understanding your audience. So for Rednote, one thing they did quite bad actually is, as the time went on, it was clear they were forgetting about their original audience and the native audience. They were prioritizing this new traffic almost too much. So obviously they were translating everything, which was great. We saw a large increase in engagement between the native Chinese audience and then this sort of influx of Americans and British people, and I think Australians and all these English speakers. But then they started to take it too far. So at one point they suggested that they would be making this update, which would essentially have too much traffic, so they'd be splitting the servers. So there would be the mainland China server and then the rest of the world server. They thought this would be great because it would mean that the service would continue running at a reasonable speed for everyone. They would also be able to split their focus, so they would continue with English translations only for the rest of world server, as it were, and then the mainland Chinese server would continue to have the app as they knew. However, they didn't take the time to actually understand the audience. And the issue is that a lot of Chinese Americans used the app to connect with their friends and family back home in China. Thinking about people who maybe were first generation immigrants, who were foreign exchange students, that kind of thing. So there's actually this big, again, not a huge backlash, but a bit of a backlash on both TikTok and Rednote from primarily Chinese American users, essentially saying, like this lady saying in this clip, that actually it was going to be devastating for her because suddenly, because she wasn't in China, she was going to be cut off from that community she had made on the app, who were based in China. And it was going to have this huge negative impact on her. And actually, it started a slight trend of people then getting annoyed at the Americans for ruining everything. They're coming over here, they're ruining our app, and actually how they shouldn't be prioritized. The Red Note should be prioritizing the original audience and the users who it was built for. So how do we apply this to experimentation? I think it's really important not to forget your loyal customers, whether those are loyal customers in terms of they're always coming back every day to buy things, or just your regular users. I think it's important to not forget about those. So we often talk about peak period traffic as well. Your traffic over peak periods may be very different behaviors than the rest of the year. I think that holds true for other traffic as well. So if you've launched a big marketing campaign or you've decided to create something new on the site or launched a new product line, you will likely have new users coming, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be loyal. And what you want to make sure of is before you go ahead and change any functionality on your site or make big decisions in regard to the design of your website or how people will be interacting with it, it's really important you take the time to understand how your current user base are using it at the moment and make sure that by making these changes, which may appeal to your new audience, you're not forgetting your original one or making things worse for them. Because ultimately, you don't know yet if your new audience are going to become loyal. So you don't want to prioritize them at risk of losing the customers who are already there. And this is where we kind of come into this problem first approach that we like to do at CreativeCX, which is we like to take the time to actually research our customers and understand them, understand the problems that they have and solve those problems, rather than thinking we know what the problems are and trying to solve them, which again may end up actually causing more problems for your existing audience or overlooking what the biggest problems actually were. There have been quite a few times in my career where we have done a test and we thought this is going to have a huge impact, and actually it just hasn't moved the dial because we're not actually solving a problem that exists. So I think it's really important you take the time to understand the customers. And actually, what are they trying to do on your website? What is it that maybe they're struggling with? Where can you help them make them feel heard? And in this way, again, I think it's really important to talk to your audience. So I am a huge fan of Duolingo marketing. I'm going to talk about it quite a bit, but I think they're such a good example of actually understanding your audience and talking to them. So this little screen cap here is actually from Twitter or X. So Duolingo was posting across all these different platforms about the ban. This is kind of in reference to the fact that in terms of the ban, TikTok didn't actually talk to their audience at all until I think about a week before the ban, when the president of TikTok made a little video, which was essentially 1 minute of kissing Donald Trump's butt, to be polite, but that's what it was. You can look it up. It is genuinely, it was a lot of thanking the president because Donald Trump essentially said he would potentially do a state of execution. Um, that's how long it took them. So whereas all these other apps, RedNote was constantly talking to audiences. Duolingo was every day posting about it, making some sort of reference about it. Um, TikTok weren't. They were kind of their audience was in a panic. They didn't know what to do. They had no guidance. They were completely lost, and TikTok weren't talking to them or telling them what was going on. They also went dark earlier than expected, which is what this screenshot is reference to. So everybody expected it to kind of go dark at midnight. It went dark, I think, about 9:30. So it's like a couple of hours that people weren't expecting. Yeah, people were saying their goodbyes. It genuinely felt like a bit like the end of summer camp with the way people were saying, what, since this app is closing, I want to tell you this thing or how much this is meant to me. Come find me here. Here's my details. And it just went with no warning. So which is why I find it so funny that Duolingo made this little comment. So Duolingo, obviously, it's all about the streaks. So this very sassy comment of just, at least we gave you till midnight, which if you would have no clue what that meant if you weren't involved in the whole TikTok ban kind of thing. It also came back with no warning less than 24 hours later. There was no warning again, it just back up. Great. And again, no acknowledgement from TikTok until a little bit later when they thanked Donald Trump for giving them a 90-day stay, which is up on the 5th of April. So we'll see what happens with that. So again, it was very lost. People felt very lost. They felt very in the dark. They also, what I thought was so interesting for me as somebody in experimentation, was there was this sudden awareness that the US version of TikTok was very different from everywhere else. They had slightly different features. They were seeing slightly different things. So for us, we all know when you do A/B testing, you'll have your control and your variation. Most people may not realize that they're part of an experiment, but suddenly people will awake to the fact that different areas of the world were seeing slightly different things and experiencing the app in slightly different ways. Um, and people were really, yeah, they found it bizarre and they started coming up with all these conspiracy theories. But for me, I was like, they're just testing. That's all they're doing. They're testing. They're doing geolocation testing. But I think this whole thing to me was so interesting by the fact that there was absolutely no communication. And I think it's so important that we do communicate with our audiences. Um, so how this applies is talk to your audiences, basically. Different users will see different things. We know that that's going to happen, and that's absolutely fine. We just have to make sure your audiences understand that they don't feel like they're missing out, that they don't feel like they're being excluded from something else or they're being treated unfairly. I think that's the key, is make sure nobody feels like it's unfair. Obviously, there are legal things in place. So I know price testing is a bit of a grey area, things like coupon testing. Do we make sure that everybody has access to it? Everybody should be able to get the same price. But there are other tests we do as well. So things like a painted door test. Whenever you do a painted door test, I always make sure that somebody feels appreciated. We don't say, oh, you can't do that thing, oh well. Make them feel acknowledged. Say, we really appreciate you engaging with this. This, just so you know, this is why we're doing it. We want to see if people actually want this thing. Thank you for taking the time. Leave your email, we'll tell you when this feature's available. Make them feel like you're grateful for them for taking part and being part of this. Also simple things like error messages and pages. If something doesn't exist, actually tell them it doesn't exist or why they can't do what they're trying to do. Make them actually talk to them, make them feel like you hear them, you understand them, they're not being lost, that you're there to hold their hand almost. Um, that's what I call my whips messaging. And then finally, invite feedback. If people are struggling with your website, give them a way to tell you that. I know a lot of websites you'll be able to contact or feedback or whatever, but make it really present for somebody, because that user feedback is so invaluable for us, honestly. It's something I always tell my clients is, can you get hold of your customer support center data, your chat logs, your emails, sit with somebody in your call center, find out what people are mad enough about to call up and complain about. Or if somebody is making the effort to email or call, find out why they haven't done it online. What is stopping them from doing this online? Invite that feedback, and you'll soon be able to identify what the biggest problems are and really optimize your website. So going back to Duolingo, because I'm absolutely in love with their marketing. These are some examples of how they were marketing. And I think it's really important. So I think about with experimentation, keeping an eye on what is current in the news outside of your current website or your business. So with Duolingo, obviously they're fully aware of what was going on. They are more chronically online than I am. They were putting these kind of posts everywhere. So across all the different social media channels, talking about how oh, now you're actually taking the time to learn Chinese and Mandarin. Doing these really funny videos teaching people Mandarin phrases like welcome TikTok refugee, can you help with my English homework, really fun stuff. And then yeah, obviously this was my favorite one, teach people how to say I don't need to read your terms and conditions. So I think Duolingo did such a good job of capitalizing on it, because they have no stake in the TikTok ban. They're across lots of different platforms. They're an app in their own right. The ban technically wouldn't affect them apart from losing whatever audience they had on TikTok. But they used what was happening for their advantage to raise awareness of it, but also for themselves, because it was also a moment of levity and all this sort of darkness and worry and concern. The fact that Duolingo was right there with them, I think really spoke to their audiences. They knew that they knew about their key audiences, and it actually resulted in a 216% increase in US learners alone learning Mandarin on the app. That is huge, and that is, maybe they'd have done it anyway, but I think part of that is because they were right there with them. They're right there with their users and saying, hey, this sucks that it's going on, but we see what you're trying to do instead, so come and do it with us. So how does this apply to experimentation? I think it's really important that you look outside of your sphere when it comes to your website as well. So users come to your website, they're not coming to you in a vacuum. They've got other things going on in their life. They've got other things they're trying to do. There are things going on in the world. And you need to have an awareness of that, because the thing is your website doesn't exist just by itself. You need to think about what your visitors are doing that might be affecting them and what's going on that may be affecting them. Think about their needs as well. So your different audiences will have different needs. So the mum with screaming kids running around who has 5 seconds to make a decision is going to have very different needs from the grandparent who's maybe struggling with their eyesight. So they need some really accessible text, and they want to find something for their for a present for somebody, but maybe they don't understand all the information. you need to think about these different audiences who you have to really personalize the experience to and make sure they're each getting what they need from your website, but also what's going on in the world in general. Do people actually care about how eco-friendly you are right now, or is it all about the cheap side of things because nobody has money? Another point of time maybe is it that people don't really trust a certain brand, so maybe you should not push that one so much and push a different one. I think if you take a step outside of your particular website, look at the industry, the way the industry is trending, but also the world in general, you'll see these trends and start to capitalize on them a bit more. I think as well, taking a look at competitors is also really useful when it comes to the UX and UI perspective of your website. So a really good example of this is the burger menu on mobile. Theoretically speaking, it's not a great design, but because it is used everywhere, people are used to it now. So suddenly, if you don't do the burger menu because you know that theoretically it's not good design, actually that may be more disruptive. So it's important to think about what other people in your industry are doing on their websites and how you can match what they're doing and then make it better, rather than just deciding you're not going to do that. And then people will have to, you don't want people to learn how to use your website, basically. You want them to come to the website, know how to use it, and then find what they need. So, in summary, if I can summarize this all in 5 points, first of all, understand the problem before you attempt to solve it. Capitalize on your traffic and understand that peak traffic is not representative of your wider audience. Reward your loyal customers, both in coupons, but also in the actual experience and making sure you hear what they're saying. Talk to your audience, they are important. They will really appreciate it if you make them feel important and that you make them feel that you appreciate them being there. And finally, keep an eye on the news. Think about what's going on in the world and what may be beneficial for you to promote on your website or change in reflection of that. Thank you for attending my talk. If you want to connect, I've actually posted about this over on LinkedIn at the start of the year, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on it as it is coming up to that 90-day window in a few weeks' time. So I'd love to connect with you all over there as well. And obviously on the TLC Slack channel where I am constantly lurking
And often answering great
and
questions.
often answering.
Awesome. This was just as good as I knew it was going to be. Thank you so much, Georgiana. We have a
My
couple of
pleasure.
comments and 2 questions, but before we ask these questions, are you seeing panic again leading into the pending April 4th?
So interestingly, I haven't. And I think that is because there's this general malaise with the US at the moment, currently. Yeah.
And this
And
feeling of, yeah, sure,
it's
because
just another thing. It's just another thing. But also, I think there's a general feel that there's going to be another 90-day stay. So it's actually in the
right.
hands of JD Vance rather than Donald Trump now. He's passed it on.
Mhm.
There's murmurings that Elon Musk may be buying it, or that's the assumption. But essentially JD Vance has, I think, as recently as yesterday, stated there's very likely to be a high level agreement within the next week. And he doesn't think there will be another ban. So I hope, we'll see what happens. But it's interesting to me that I haven't seen people talking about it on TikTok yet.
So fun. So fun. Okay. Well, Marina asks, what would be the first line of experiment, functionality, copy, new feature, etc., if your website were suddenly flooded by a foreign audience?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would try and understand where they're coming from. So, have you launched a new campaign? What is it that's drawing that new audience to your website? That'd be my very first question. Because once you know why they're coming to your website, is it that, I don't know, if you're selling something, has this thing been featured on some foreign TV show?
Mhm.
Then you immediately know you want to promote that. Is it that some influencer has started talking about you? In which case you want to connect with whatever messaging it is they're doing. So I can't answer what the first step would be because I would need to understand why they're coming to start with.
So back to the
Back
understand the
to
problem.
understanding. Yeah.
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 Yeah, exactly. Okay. Awesome. Well, the next question is actually also mine. You mentioned earlier about inviting feedback and how important it is. I totally agree. Feedback is a gift and people should give generously. But one of the things that I've noticed is often, it's that little note, that little blue link that says feedback, or that little tab that
No,
says,
yeah, nobody
yeah,
clicks them.
yeah. And the people who do are the people who are really, really angry. Right. So do you have any recommendations for how best we as companies can invite feedback in a way that you can get more quality feedback, like intercepts or something, and not only from people who are angry?
Yeah, so I mean, the number one rule is make it easy. I think it's also about where you time it and where you place it. Also, you've got the exit intent when somebody goes to scroll off screen and it appears. The biggest one for me actually is ask people who have converted what nearly stops them from converting. So they've
Oh, I like
converted,
that.
they've bought something, everything's happy, but say, hey, if there was something that nearly stopped you, what was it? And you can get some good information that way.
That's really good. So somebody who we know completed, is there
Yeah.
something that would have stopped you
Yeah, it would have
or
stopped you,
nearly
nearly
stopped you?
stopped you, because you can also, if they are engaging, you can take it a step further. So, say they've just bought a new pair of shoes on your website, and you say, "What nearly stopped you from buying these?" And they might say, "Oh, well, I found it really hard to figure out what size it was." Then immediately you know where you want to go and look and think about, okay, what is it about this that's confusing? Or yeah, you can ask them, is there anything that would have made it easier or quicker for you to convert? Then again, it's going back to that aspect of making your customers feel valued as well and appreciated. And we really like this feedback. Thank you for giving us this feedback, that kind of thing.
I like that a lot. That's really good. Well, thank you so much, Georgiana. Let's talk about what's upcoming for everybody. Oh, that's the wrong page. Close that one. All right, coming next, like I mentioned already, April 4th is Michael Agard. He's going to talk about from stage fright to stage confidence, how to overcome stress and anxiety in public speaking. That's April 4th, same time. And then after that, we've got Mr. Tim Wilson talking about analytics the right way on April 25th, resetting how organizations approach their use of data. So those are our next two talks. Got another talk in May. I don't have the exact date yet. And then I think the talk in May is with June. That's not confusing. I think the talk in May is with June Dershowitz, but I got to get the exact time and I got to confirm that that is right. And then in June, we will be at Experimentation Elite with the TLC Mentorship Summit. Yay! So I know a lot of you that are on the call will be there. Really looking forward to it. Georgiana was on the TLC Mentorship Summit last year. Our
Amazing.
panel this year is going to be still Ruben and Els and Abby. Lucas is a maybe. Tone is going to be on the panel this year. Really excited about that. And Michael's still going to do the speaker coaching for our mentees, and it's going to be really awesome. So if you haven't got your tickets yet for Experimentation Elite, go get your tickets. It's really great. They've got the CRO roundtables in the morning. We've got the TLC Mentorship Summit in the afternoon. And then the next day is Experimentation Elite, all of the talks. And that evening is the award show. It's going to be awesome. So I
It's
hope you guys
amazing.
can make it. It's an awesome, it's an
It
awesome.
is. It is amazing. I'll be there cheering you on as well.
Yes, yes. And one of our speakers from the TLC Mentorship Summit, Vignesh Loganathan, who won the grand
It's the
prize,
winner.
is going to be on the main stage this year at Experimentation Elite, which is just amazing. And one of the audience members last year who raised her hand during the TLC, the panel, the mentorship panel, she raised her hand and asked a question, and she ended up winning the prize of mentorship with all of the panel members. We chose her to be one of the mentees on the stage this year. So like full circle, you get a year of mentorship with all of the mentors, and then you get to be the mentee presenting this year. So come be in the audience. You never know, maybe you'll win mentorship and the opportunity to be on the stage next year. So anyway, that's all, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Thanks again, Georgiana. Great job.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That was so great. By the way, Eddie had to drop off right at the end, and he was like really upset because he was really enjoying it. Go read his comment and respond to it.
I have. It's super interesting. I'll be over there in TLC
I know.
if anybody has any other questions.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, Georgie. It was awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Absolutely. Bye, Marina.